Hey, everybody. I'm Geneva Scott, Director of the Career Center. I just wanted to say hello and introduce two fantastic lead presenters who will be sharing their insights with you on demystifying the technical interview. We are really excited at CodePath for our partnership with Brilliant Black Minds and Carrot to support our future Black engineers with the interview prep and support they need. And so that's really mission aligned for CodePath. As you all know, our primary focus is diversifying tech. And so part of that is understanding how to navigate the technical interview and get all these insights for our two brilliant presenters. So I'm going to pass it off to Bobby to kind of share a little bit about himself and then intro our other guest speaker, Anthony Mays. And so Bobby, I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Let me know. First of all, in the chat room, everybody give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. You can see the presentation. This is going to be an interactive conversation, so I definitely want to see y'all using the chat room. Also, represent where you're coming from. If you're from Brilliant Black Minds, put in their BBM, and if you're from CodePath, put in CP so we can see who's pulled up and come and hang out with us for an hour or so. But I'm going to kick things off. As mentioned, my name is Bobby, and we'll get to a slide that has some more details about it. But big shout outs to Brilliant Black Minds for giving us an opportunity to showcase some of the things that we are presenting over on our side to prepare students, candidates, cohorts for a field of engineering, and more or less taking some experiences that we've had, myself and Anthony over the years, and giving that to you all. Quick introduction, we'll talk about CodePath, Brilliant Black Minds, and then we'll jump right into the meat. 3 skills to demystify technical interviewing. Having a conversation, which if you haven't heard already, that's how you get it. Practice, 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 but also being ready for feedback. All right, so to start us off, CodePath, as Geneva mentioned, if the slide doesn't go too fast, sorry. Wow, this thing does not want to work today. Where's my back button? There we go. So CodePath is a nonprofit, as Geneva mentioned, really focusing on closing that gap of inequality for underrepresented CS students and people that look like me and have had trouble getting into the industry. I've been associated with CodePath for the past 6 months, and I can tell you it's definitely a community that rides for theirs and provides the best support that I've seen so far. And really, I'm hoping that you get an opportunity to be a part of this group here called CodePath. Now, a little bit about me, so you can, kind of get calibrated in my skill set, is that I've been in the field of engineer for a few moons, 20 years, it says, since back in 2002. But the real big thing that I like to remind people is that actually I worked at a real cool social media company. It's been in the news lately. Unfortunately, we had a few tweets leave the flock, but in general, I worked at Twitter as a systems engineer, but also a software engineer. So I bring both of those skill sets to the table, and I became proficient at site reliability engineering. Let me see, anybody know what site reliability engineering? If you could just throw it in there, let me know if you know what site reliability engineering is. If you do have questions about site reliability engineering, save them for the end, but definitely want to enlighten you on those specific skill sets. I'm owner of one of my own company. It's called the CodePath. I'm owner of my own company called the Tech Hustle, which we're partnering with CodePath so I can provide these services. I'm Haitian American, so I'm a first generation. I know what it feels like to be at the bottom, and sometimes we're way at the bottom because most people don't realize that we have to pay to get to this country, But in general, I bring a different perspective in terms of my background. And if you want to follow along, hashtag Team Doorless is my family hashtag, and Black Tech Twitter. If you're not following Black Tech Twitter, get on Twitter and make sure you follow that hashtag. Now, the other thing I want to mention is my codes or programming language that I'm most proficient at. Python is my preferred language. Golang, if you're not familiar with, is a compiled programming language, extremely cool, extremely fast, and definitely solves some very, low latency challenges that you may have. And the other thing is Bash. Now, if you don't know what Bash is, it's usually the terminal that you log into and you type in commands. Most people don't know that that's actually a programming language too. And I've actually really became proficient at writing Bash. But the next introduction I want to give the mic to is my guy, Anthony D. Mays. Go ahead and introduce yourself, bro.
What's going on, fam? Y'all know what time it is. Anthony, I'm the senior advisor for the Brilliant Black Minds program, as well as being the founder of Morgan Latimer Consulting, named after my 2 favorite Black inventors, Garrett A. Morgan and Lewis Latimer. We can get into my story a little bit later, but the main thing is I'm here to set y'all up. But since Bobby was talking about his languages, I guess I got to talk about mine. So he's more back end. I'm definitely a front end dude. So TypeScript, which is the superset of JavaScript, got Node.js. I've been working with that, as well as Firebase, dipping into that since I left Google. So pretty dope. Ex-Google software engineer. I spent 8 years there. Like Bobby, 20-year tech career as well. And just amazing to be able to just be down with this brother and trying to help y'all out. So that's all it is.
No doubt, no doubt. And go ahead and give us an introduction about Brilliant Black Minds.
So Brilliant Black Minds, let me just make it super easy for you. You know how to code, come in and get free mock interviews, unlimited free mock interviews, as well as feedback. And that's really the most important part. So you get to take these mock interviews, but you also get feedback to let you know how to improve and get better. Free workshops, many of which I've designed, in addition to having folks like Bobby or having folks like the Amazon engineers coming in and talking about what it's like to be Black in tech, what it takes to, have your LinkedIn and resume all ironed out. All of that's there. There's a Discord community. So these are other Black engineers just trying to help each other. We've got study sessions that happen Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday. So all of that is set up. And if you do well on your mock interviews, there's an opportunity for you to get fast track with our corporate partners, including Indeed, Duolingo, Amazon Prime Video, Citi, and Flatiron Health. So if any of that is interesting to you, go sign up today for free, completely free to you. So you don't have anything to lose. Go check it out.
Roger that. Thank you so much for that introduction, Anthony. So we're going to jump right into the topic at hand. 3 skills to demystify interviewing. And Anthony's going to pull up a little bit later because he's going to sit in the hot seat for us to, maybe even do some coding stuff. So definitely hang out so you can take a look at that. But the key thing that I want to emphasize in our conversation here is that these skill sets that I'm going to be speaking about, I want you to listen. Because number one, they may be things that you've already heard. And that's the key. If you hear me talk about something that you've already heard, and I'm reiterating again, make sure you're listening, because that is going to be the key for you to demystify interviewing and get yourself into this field of engineering. Most people that I run into really have a challenge with getting ready for interviewing. And the cool thing about me is that when I worked at Twitter as a senior engineer, I actually mentored other engineers on how to interview. So you're going to get a behind the scenes on the top 3 things that I feel as a candidate will make you more marketable, more successful at getting through the interview cycle. Because guess what? I kind of taught some of these same things to other engineers for them to be better at interviewing, right? So the first topic that we're going to talk about is having a conversation. Now, I know it might seem simple to be like, oh, having a conversation, but do you know how many times I've been in an interview with great candidates sitting in front of me, and unfortunately just zip their lips. They don't say anything. They're thinking, they're internalizing all of the things that they think is going to result in the answer. But when you take the opportunity to talk out your problem, saying it out loud, you're giving the interviewer an opportunity to hear your thoughts. If we don't hear it, we can't provide effective feedback to possibly say something like, hey, the candidate may have not known how to solve the problem, but in the process of communicating effectively and out loud, I was able to hear that they had proficiency level at XYZ. That's kind of a feedback that I've written before, and the candidate's gotten hired. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about these problems, is think out loud. Now, the other thing that candidates mostly come and talk to me about is, what do I do if I don't know the answer to the problem? I'm like, ask clarifying questions. What do I do if ask clarifying questions? Now, the reason for asking clarifying question, number one, is to give you a chance to take a breath. I mean, they ask a question, it's like, I don't know, getting yourself ready to have that kind of collaborative conversation by asking clarifying question gives you the space to be able to develop and understand the solution or the problem at hand. Without clarity, you might be solving the wrong problem. And unfortunately, that might be the thing that they're looking for, is like, how did you ask clarifying questions for us to eventually get to a solution that aligns with the conversation? The other thing that I want to mention here is most times people think that there's a right and wrong answer. You throw a problem up there, somebody runs there and does it. All right, they're getting hired. No, most of the times what I'm looking for as an interviewer is how you did it. Like, how did you get to point A? Did you have a decision point where you had to decide to go left or go right? Or did you just say, hey, I'm going to brute force this and I'm just going to go straight all the way through it? But if I don't know how you do it or what's kind of that decision point, then I cannot provide the feedback that really aligns with the solution that you provide. Don't think that just solving the problem, you're going to get the job. because I've hired candidates that bombed the coding interview, but I've seen why they couldn't solve the problem. Because in their process of communicating and having a conversation out loud, I've seen that there was a decision point for them to go left. They didn't choose that, they went right. And unfortunately, I know they're not going to solve the problem, but I still see the skills that we need for them to be a high-performing engineer or suit the position that we were hiring for. And the last point I want to mention about having a conversation is, I'm not sure when and where this happened in our industry to think that we code in our own, rooms or in our own office and we do it all on our own. We are collaborators by nature. As an engineer, if I need to make a change, I need to have consensus amongst my peers before I introduce a change. Those practices being collaborative also applies inside of interviews. If you're having a conversation being collaborative, from my perspective, that's somebody I can really talk to, because we're going to throw ideas on the wall and we're going to collaborate and we're going to figure out which of these are the best ideas. So keep that in mind when you're interviewing, is that the other person on the other end by nature is a collaborator. They may put up a wall, they may try to mean mug you, but know that in their job and their role and their day-to-day activities, they are interacting with people back and forth. All right. So that's one thing that I want to mention about having a conversation. The next topic that we're going to cover is something that students and candidates always comes and ask me. How do I get better? How do I do this? Practice and practice some more. Now, in my professional opinion, the way that we evaluate candidates for software engineering positions, in my opinion, professional opinion, is not the most effective way to measure someone's proficiency level. But unfortunately, that's the way the game is played. You have to know these algorithms, these string manipulation. You got to know these things so that you can play this game. So what do I recommend? Practice, practice, practice. And not practice to become perfect. Practice to become proficient. Proficiency is what we're looking for, not perfection. Because in our field of engineering, we have a term called iterate. You iterating on code, constantly iterating and making it better. That means that your first line of code may not be perfect, but guess what? It's proficient because it actually executes and takes in the input and generates the output, right? So keep that in mind when you're writing code, is that you want to start to write proficiently. I want to be able to solve this problem, get through it, and then boom. It may not be the perfect solution, but now I can iterate again and constantly iterate to make the code base better. The other thing that I also have opportunities to enlighten everyone on is developing a way for you to become proficient at answering a phone call when a recruiter calls. I know the second line says how simulate phone ringing and fake phone calls. The reason why I put this there is, imagine you're not practicing answering the phone and you get a phone call from Google. Hey, this is Google Recruiting calling about this position. You're not ready for it. Guess what I do? If I know I applied for some jobs, I'm always practicing like the phone is ringing and I'm ready to pick it up and be like, hey, yes, this is Bobby Dorless. I'm very interested in an opportunity. I'm actually providing different type of skill sets, la, 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 la. And I'm just practicing simulating those things. This is muscle memory. This is getting your mind in the right mindset. So when you get that phone call out the gate, you start running. Now, this is only one of those examples of practicing that I'm talking about, but practicing is going to make you proficient when the opportunity presents itself. So not only in coding, but also answering the phone call when a recruiter calls, behavior questions when they ask you, like, so tell me a time when you did this and this happened. Guess what? Practice, practice, practice. So those things become fluent, off the tip of your tongue, and ultimately showcasing proficiency. Now, the last line that I mentioned there is something that we all know. And that is, if you don't use it, you will lose it. If you stop coding for a week, you come back the following week, you're going to see how far you slipped by not using that skill set on a daily basis. And at the end of the day, if you want to work as a software engineer, what do you think we do all day? We reading and writing and researching code and figuring out how this stuff works. Putting those type of things into practice will give you the skill set so that when the time comes for you to write code, you're on the tip of your toes and you're ready to go. So code, and code some more. But the key thing from this slide that I want to make sure that you take away is that you are practicing to become proficient, because we want to see what skill set you are, because we know, especially if you're an intern or new to the industry, that you're not going to have those really high level skills, and we need space to teach you and ultimately develop your skill sets. but make sure that you're constantly working on developing a proficiency level, not only in coding, but also in how you respond to behavior questions, simulated phone calls, and make sure that you're coding every day. All right. So the next slide that we have is, oh, Anthony, it's that time, bro. We're going to do some practicing here. So
Okay.
Anthony and I are going to, or actually Anthony is going to be interviewing for a position. I'm going to flip the mode real quick and do a mock interview with Anthony. And he's going to help us understand kind of the first beginning of answering a problem or a coding challenge, how you analyze and research, not research, but analyze the solution before you actually start to write code. You ready for it, Anthony?
As ready as I'm gonna be. I stay ready, so I ain't got to get ready.
So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm just going to pop into the screen here. And let's just go ahead and switch into mode. And we shouldn't take no more than 5 minutes, whoever's sitting around listening in. All right. So thank you so much, Anthony, for coming in and interviewing at XYZ Company for a software engineering position. Today, we're going to be talking about solving an algorithm problem. But before that, give me a quick introduction of yourself and tell me what coding language you're most proficient at.
Hey there. So I'm a software engineer of 20 years, spent 8 years at Google. I specialize on the front end, including TypeScript, React, Node.js, stuff like that. Yeah, and I just really like to solve problems using front end. So excited to be here. I would love it if we could interview in TypeScript, JavaScript, something like that.
Awesome, awesome. And thank you very much for letting me know where your proficiency at and what coding language you would prefer us to talk about. Now, our problem that we're going to be solving today, and let me bring up this screen here. If I could quickly find it. There we go. Let me know when you see that screen pop up.
I see it. I see
Awesome,
let's
awesome.
practice in the thing. Okay, cool.
Awesome. So today's problem that we're going to solve and review is a challenge that we're having in our environment, defining strings that are anagrams. Strings are integers, and more specifically, a grouping of words or numbers. And what we want to do is, based on the description of what an anagram is being able to find words that have the same length, same characters, but if you reorder them, they can spell different things. If you can see down there, the example of heart can be reordered into earth. But the thing that I want us to cover before we actually start to write code is how would you kind of come up with the ideal solution to be able to solve such a problem?
All right, cool. So just so I can understand and break this down, do you want me to test to see whether two strings are anagrams of each other?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Good. So then whatever solution I write, it just needs to return. I assume it's going to take like two strings, and then I'd need to return true or false if they're anagrams of each other.
Awesome. Well, thank you for asking for some more clarity in the question. What we're actually going to do is pass in a string of words, and what we're going to do is group the words that are actually anagrams of themselves.
Oh, okay. So we're going to take like a stream of words, like say, 51 words or something like that, and then we're gonna group all the words so that all the anagrams are grouped. All the anagrams of a specific word are grouped together. So like in this example, if I had heart, earth, and like flip, I would have two groups, one group that has heart and earth, and then the other that has flip. Do I have that right?
Yep, that sounds perfect.
Okay, dope. All right. So then like, is there a limit to how many of these things I'm going to get? Am I always going to get one? Is it possible that I won't get any strings at all?
Yeah, so you might actually end up getting an empty list or a list. The length is longest list will be 50 items in that list.
Okay, all right. So I can get between 0 and 50 items in the list. Okay, dope. I understand that. So then at the least, I might return 0 groups, or I might return 50 groups. Does that sound accurate?
That sounds accurate.
Okay, cool. And then do I need to check whether these words are valid or not?
No, we don't need to validate if they're actually real words.
Okay, so hold on. I just need to type some notes in here. We'll receive between 0 to 50 strings, and the strings can contain numbers, right?
Correct.
Okay. Strings may not be dictionary words and may contain letters or numbers. Do I need to worry about like special characters or any weird rules around that?
Nope.
Okay. and then need to return items grouped. All right, cool. So I assume that I'm getting an array of values, right?
Correct.
Okay, so then in what format should I return this? Like intuitively in my mind, I think that returning a dictionary of arrays makes sense, where the key is like, the words that are like some kind of key that groups everything, and then an array of all the values that fit. Or do I need to return like an array of arrays?
We're going to eventually return array of arrays, but I like the way that you're thinking in terms of keys with array values.
Okay, no, I mean array of arrays is perfect. And does that resulting array need to be sorted some kind of a way? Like,
Nope,
do I need to return everything in order of appearance, or does it?
Nope, not at all.
Okay, so I can just group it whichever way. Okay, so return array of arrays. Okay, excellent. I think I have enough. Is it possible to get empty strings?
Is it possible to get empty strings? No, there won't be empty strings. It would be the empty list, or no, it won't have empty strings.
Okay, so each string will have at least one character that I can use for grouping. Okay, cool. So here's, if you don't mind, I'd like to, I would love to run through some examples, if that's fine. We did talk about one with heart, earth, and J, and I think we also talked about if I get an empty list, I should return empty array. So just going back to the heart, earth, and like jazz example.
Mm-hmm.
So if I get, I'm kind of doing it this way. What I should return is heart, earth is going to be in one. It is going to be in the chat, by the way. And then jazz is going to be the other thing. So that would be a valid input and output.
Roger that.
Okay, fantastic. And then if I get this, and if I get an empty array, I'm just going to return empty. Okay, cool. So I think I know how I would want to do this. Essentially what I want to do is, so the first solution that comes to mind is take each word that comes in to my list. I'm going to sort it by letter and by value. So we'll use just a simple ASCII sort. Is ASCII fine, or is this like?
ASCII's perfect.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to take each word, I'm going to sort it in character order. And then I'm going to use a dictionary to start building a grouping of similar words. So when I find something in the dictionary or in my hash map, I'm going to add to that array in the value. And then what I would do is read those values back out of the dictionary to make my array of arrays.
Ooh, thank you so much, Anthony D. Mays. Let's give Anthony D. Mays a round of applause here. Give him one and throw it in the chat with the round of applause, because he even pulled another slick one. He put his notes in the chat room, so y'all know how he thinks. Truly, truly, truly. All right, so we're going to move right on into not this slide. Oop, the slide went up too quick, but we're actually going to look at some code real quick, all right? Because Anthony D. Mays basically helped highlight something that I want you to make sure you do effectively in an interview, which is spend the first part of the time collecting as many requirements. Remember, when I first started off, I didn't even tell him, hey, this is what we're going to pass in. This is what the output is. He's iterating, trying to get as much requirements. All right, I think I know all the requirements. Let me step back and tell you how I would solve this. I would solve this by doing sorted words, storing it in a hash map, the key being the sorted word, and then the value stored in the array. And guess what? This code base that we're looking at outlines exactly what Anthony D. Mays came up with a solution. But the key thing is, before he wrote code, he came up with a solution and communicated extremely effective. If you didn't catch another way he communicated in typing and letting me know his thought process. So after the interview, guess what? I have the logs. I'm going to go be like, yo, this is what Anthony Mays talked about before we even started writing code, and definitely highlighting his proficiency in developing a mindset and problem solving. But we're going to quickly take a look at this code here, and we're just going to run it, and we're going to hopefully find a way to solve a problem, because that's what we really want here. So here's the list of the array that Anthony Mays is expecting in this object or this function that he's creating. You'll see that car has an anagram of arc if you reorder it, and dog and God are basically the same words ordered differently. It's a very simple function that just takes in one argument or parameter called an array. Here goes that hash map that Anthony was talking about we're going to use to actually store the words. But the key thing here is line number 7. As we're iterating through the words, we're doing a sorted of the word that's coming in, and we're rejoining it. Somebody throw in the chat room, what am I doing right here? And why am I doing a sorted and then doing something like a rejoin? And I'll check it later to see who got it. But more or less, this right here is giving us that sorted word that we're going to store as the key to the dictionary of the hash and the hash map itself. And then the value is going to be the word that we found. And that's basically broken down in line number 8 to 13. So we're saying, hey, if the sorted word is in the dictionary, that means we already found something that had that same sorted word. Figure out, do we add it, meaning a duplicate, or we just add it as just an appendant to the list itself? Or if it's the first time that we've seen the word, we just basically say, hey, the sorted word, and then we create a new list with the word that we found. But the key thing is I don't know if anybody found it yet, but did anybody find a bug yet just by me scrolling and looking at it? Maybe. I don't know. Let's go ahead and click the run button. Now, the reason why I emphasize this, oops, somebody said line number 13, jackpot, misspelling, jackpot. And actually, you can see it in the error message. Now, one of the reasons why I emphasize looking at code like this and executing it is that, number one, get used to getting error messages. Unfortunately, IDEs have taken away misspelled words from us. So when you're writing code during an interview and you accidentally misspell something, get used to looking down here and finding out what the problem is, because I've had too many candidates not look at the error message for us just to go up there and fix this and just say, D is the character we're missing for that. And then let's go and rerun our code base and let's take a look. Look at that output. It's exactly what Anthony Mays had predicted in terms of our output and more or less generating the output we expect for this exercise. So definitely big ups, congratulations. Thank you so much, Anthony. And you all that found out that line number 13 had a typo, good looking out. All right. So the next section that we're going to talk about, and keep all your questions. We'll have more questions at the end, but definitely want to jump back to the topic at hand here. So be ready to receive feedback. This is one area that I think as candidates, when you're interviewing, you have to embrace, is because feedback is what's going to make you better as an engineer, make you better as a person interviewing, and just make you better as a person in general. Feedback will make you better. Feedback isn't you're not good enough. Feedback is, hey, if you tune this a little bit more, I bet you'll catch it next time. And the key thing here is to be okay with the word no. Now, no for me just means not right now. If I interviewed at Google a few times. And when I went there and interviewed for a position, they said no. I didn't go home and cry. I was like, you know what? That just means not right now. Let me get at it again. Let me do some more research. Interview again. They said no again. I was like, man, these times are tough. That feedback they gave me really solidified the third interview because they called me back a third time. They gave me an opportunity. We just didn't come to a happy medium, but it took me 3 attempts to finally get a thumbs up from Google. But that right there is what I'm using as an example of iterating, listening, taking feedback, getting better. And you can apply at these companies more than once. Just because they said no one time doesn't mean that they said no forever. The other thing is document as much as you can remember. So when I went and interviewed at those companies, I ran home and wrote down everything they said, every question that they said, because guess what? This is my new prep doc before I go to my next interview. Oh, when I interviewed at Twitter, they asked me this. When I interviewed at Amazon, they said no, but they asked me this algorithm problem that I didn't know. But guess what? I worked on it, so I'm ready to go next time. Google asked me these behavior questions, and last time I responded, I didn't get the job. So let me work on developing a better way to answer this type of behavior question. And it's because I documented all of those. And now when it's time for me to go interview at the next place, I got a playbook. I got everything I need. My mindset's going to be ready. I'd definitely be jamming the music before because I'm just ready to go because I have all the docs from my previous jobs ready for me to get ready for the next interview up. And the other thing that I want to make sure that you all are very mindful of, especially being a part of Black Brilliant Minds or CodePath, is that your community is there to support you. I know I've mentioned this to a mentee once before, is that your community, sometimes you feel like, hey, I don't want to reach into my community because I don't want to burden anyone. The thing is that when you use that currency, such as reaching into your community, when you get it, you just got to give it back. The idea of a community is that we're all collectively in this together. So before I have an interview at XYZ company, I'm sending out a group chat. Yo, I'm going to be pulling up to so-and-so company. Anybody interviewed there before? Hit the button. You'd be surprised in how much your community has your back. And if you're on LinkedIn, definitely reach out to your community that way. Just know that you have to pay that currency back, because once you get a job and somebody else is looking for an opportunity, that's how you pay it back. So don't feel any type of way when you need or when you want to reach out to your community, because that's how you're going to become effective at receiving feedback, using the documentation, and then landing an opportunity because you have those resources available to you in your community. All right. And we are at the end of our deck here and have an opportunity for some questions. I don't know how many questions, if there are any queued up in the chat. I don't know if Anthony may have seen some queued up there, but the mic is open for us to answer any type of questions. We got about another 15 minutes or so, so we're going to run it until the clock runs out. Thank you so much, and definitely look forward to any questions that there may be.
So we
Yeah,
don't
come
have
on and
any
get it in.
questions yet in the chat.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
listen, I want your dumb questions too. Like, just don't save the smart questions for us. Also, give us the dumb ones.
For sure, for sure. There's never a question that you can't ask. You know, I have the saying that I tell my mentees is that sometimes you're not sure who you're in the presence of. That if you're afraid of asking a question, you could leave without getting a bag or two of information. Like, really just think about that. Don't be fearful of asking these questions, because you might leave this session without a bag or two of information. So please feel free to ask. And I'm gonna make our screen get a little bit bigger so we can make it more personal. All right.
Gloria asked if we can get a copy of the slides.
For sure, for sure. Afterwards, we'll send out the recording from this workshop that we had here, including the slides themselves and the link to the buggy code, so you can look at the second tab, because there was actually 2 tabs there. There was one example that we did earlier, and then a second example for you to go and level up to. Because one thing we know about coding is Anthony could write 20 lines of code. I can go write another 20 lines of code, and they'll look totally different, but they do the same thing. So leveling up and understanding how code is written in multiple ways is definitely something you'll pick up in that link that we'll be publishing.
All right, we have a question.
All right,
How
Jason.
do I get started with learning and practicing data structures and algorithms?
Yeah, so data structure and algorithms is very much a common term in our industry, especially if you're doing searching online for those specific skill sets. One of the best utilities and tools that we've been using is things like LeetCode and HackerRank to kind of, home in those skill sets and finding the right use case for them. And in general, every programming language have these basic premises, how to use data structures, and definitely different algorithms that are available out there. One thing that I want you to be okay with is sometimes solving these problems take a lengthy amount of time for you to really collectively kind of come up with a solution mentally, rather. It's okay to look at solutions while you're solving this problem so that you can become more efficient at solving these type of problems. So if you're looking for, hey, data structures in this programming language, Python data structures, I guarantee you Python source documentation has a lot of examples that you can use for data structures. If you look up algorithms written in Python, I guarantee you're going to find a lot of algorithms specifically for that programming language that you can start to sharpen your skills on and have a foundational understanding of when to use them, and then go to LeetCode and be like, oh, I learned that algorithm the other day. Let me go and re-implement that and actually showcase my skill set. So that's my professional opinion. And obviously there are different courses that you can take around it. But remember, the internet's there, the information's there for free. So all you got to go is look for it. So that would be my recommendation.
Awesome. All right, I'm taking my first Java class this semester. Should I apply for internships? Am I qualified enough?
Anthony, let me know if you want to jump in any of these questions here, but I can definitely jump in.
Sure. So let's see, where was this at? First, should I apply for internships? Am I qualified enough? So the whole point of internships is that you don't know nothing. That's the point. I love to get, I remember my first internship is like, what have you done? Nothing. All right, you're hired. The point of the internship isn't that you know a bunch of stuff. The point of the internship is that you're teachable. So if you are teachable and if you have an interest in learning and growing, then you should definitely apply. And you want to make sure that when you're applying for these internship roles, that you're conveying that, how you learn, how you ask questions, how you think through problems, and how you get help. That's the most important thing, because you're an intern. Of course, you don't know things. There may be some basic minimal requirements. So for instance, at a Google internship, you need to know how to code for most of those. Like, you should already be strong in your language and in data structures and algorithms. But if you're applying for something like a STEP internship, which is the internship for first or second year students, you just have to have a basic understanding of those things. You may not be an expert in algorithms and data structures in order to get the job. And so you want to pay attention to the job position carefully. But again, what makes you qualified for an internship isn't what you know, it's about your ability to learn and apply your skills. And so if you can point back to examples in your career where you've had to learn something and then turn that into something else that's useful, you're perfectly qualified, and make sure that you go apply. And by the way, none of us, I'm going to speak for all the professionals on here, none of us ever apply for a job that we're 100% qualified for. None of us. Like I'll apply if I'm at least probably 60, 70% qualified. You could probably go down to as low as 50%.
For sure, for sure. And actually, if you are applying for a job, if you're in the industry, make sure you are applying for a job that steps you up. Don't be applying for the same level. You want to step up in the process. So just think about that in terms of the gaps that you may have in those skill sets. Josie, anything else come up?
Yeah, we have a bunch. Okay, this was great. Thank you so much. My question is, I've heard people say that it's always good to mention big O in interviews. I don't know what big O is.
Oh, it's a bag of fun. It's a bag of fun.
I was going to say, I hope you guys know what big O is.
I mean, and the answer is, so it's important to know that not all companies care about big O algorithms and data structures. I work for a regional bank. They don't care about that stuff. So I wouldn't make mention of that because my interviewer probably wouldn't even understand. If you're working for a big tech company or applying for a big tech company like Twitter or Google or Meta or something like that, they absolutely care about that. And you should probably mention that. Usually in the preparation materials, they'll tell you should know big O. And if they say that, then make sure that you mention big O in the interview or algorithms and data structures. If they don't mention those things and you ask the recruiter and they're just like, no, we just want to know that you know how to code, then don't worry about big O algorithms and data structures.
Good answer. What types of DSNA questions are asked if you're interviewing for front-end positions?
All the normal ones. It's all the same stuff. Because guess what? Front-end engineers use algorithms and data structures too. So you need to know that stuff. In addition, if you're doing front-end, you also, in addition to knowing data structure algorithms and all that stuff, need to know what a closure is and what the front-end languages are and how to work with hex values and RGB when it comes to colors. And so you have a little bit more that you need to do when you're applying for a front-end role at like a big tech company. If you're applying at a smaller company or maybe at a company that's not even tech, they may not ask you any data structure and algorithms questions. They just want to know, can you build something? So you might have a take-home project or something that you'll work on. So again, you want to do your homework to figure out what kind of role you're applying for. If you're applying for front end at a big tech company, be prepared to work on a team that is building the next big front end language or the next big front end tool. And that's why you need to know the algorithms and data structures, because you might be building a thing that everybody else is going to use, like Angular, or the next version of React or whatever that may be. And so that's why the algorithms and data structures are there and why you'll interview on that. But again, if you're working for a smaller company or maybe a consulting firm or something like that, they may not need that level of expertise and knowledge, and you just need to focus on your front end skills. So choose wisely.
Solid advice. Also, where do I find practice for interviews? So I'm going to call out the Career Center for that one.
That is literally why we're here.
I mean, you got Coach Bobby here. He'll do a practice interview with you every day if his schedule allows it. Do you guys have anything else you want to add for where they should go for practice?
No, I mean, definitely the Career Center, especially if you're on the CodePath side of the house. I'm always available in terms of giving you a real in-depth feedback loop. We're going to record the session. We're going to do, one-on-one, just like we did with Anthony, flip the switch, and I'm really interviewing you. But I'm going to give Anthony the floor also, is that Brilliant Black Minds offers technical mock interviews. So remember, the more interviews you get, the more practice you get, the more simulation you get. When you really have to play that game in real life, it's going to be smooth. It's going to be easy. So definitely let them know what opportunities you have, Anthony.
So one thing you should know about Brilliant Black Minds is that Brilliant Black Minds is put on by a company called Carrot, which is the world's largest interviewing company. They have interviewers from around the world who can do interviews 24/7. And so with Brilliant Black Minds, you get a tool that you can use for scheduling your interview at a time that's convenient for you. You go through all that. And again, you get an unlimited number as well as feedback, both verbal feedback in the session, but also written notes afterwards. And you can take as many of those as you want. And as you improve and get better, you might actually qualify for one of our hiring partners. So not only are you practicing, but you might get the opportunity to get fast tracked. And there are folks who have been presented with offers through our program, through practicing on the Carrot platform, through Brilliant Black Minds. So for me, like it's a no-brainer. I wish I had this 20 years ago. I could have stepped into a lot of opportunities with this. So make sure that you study. And as I mentioned before, with Brilliant Black Minds, we have study sessions, including on Tuesdays. We have a study session with interview engineer from with an interviewer from Amazon. So an actual Amazon interviewer and bar raiser, who is like the interviewer's interviewer, comes and does study sessions for us on Tuesday nights, particularly. We also have study sessions, like I said, on Mondays and Wednesdays, in addition to some on Saturday as well. So this is a great way for you to practice without any stress or pressure to get that volume in. You have tons of options. You just need to take advantage of them, whether you're using Brilliant Black Minds or whether you're tapping into CodePath. Because, honestly, I enjoyed my interview with Bobby. I would do that again.
And my suggestion would really to do both, because isn't it awesome to get so many different perspectives? Because while maybe your learning style doesn't jive with CodePath and jives, over with Anthony's group. So you just never know. So take advantage of everything that you have at your fingertips. It's awesome.
And by the way, the swag is pretty nice too. This sweater is fire. That's all I'm saying. The Brilliant Black Minds over here. Let's get that off. I got it upside down.
I'm waiting for mine in the mail, kid.
Man,
where's
dude,
mine?
you should have been got yours. All right, we gotta get this worked out. I got homework.
All right, let's go to the next question. This is a question from Gabriella, and I happen to absolutely love this question because this happens to me all the time. Do you have any tips on how to recover when your mind goes blank and you can't think of anything for both behavioral and technical questions?
Yeah, so this is one of those practicing methods that I want you to make sure you institute. Is that rambling that's going on in your mind? We want to hear that too. So it's like you are confused. I want you to say it just like this. Oh man, I don't know where I'm going to start with this thing, but you know what? If I were to do this and do that, maybe that could, because the interviewer is not the only person listening. You are also listening to yourself. So just let those words flow. We know when you're interviewing and you're like at a point where it's like, all right, they might just be trying to catch something in terms of the way that they're talking. So make it in that environment where you're just letting those thoughts that are flowing, even if your thoughts are, I don't even know where to start. Just let it flow. Because the other thing is that if I'm interviewing and I catch that, I know at the end of the day, I'm going to make sure I'm giving you that collaborative support for us to get through the interview process. One thing that I've taught interviewers at Twitter is that when the interviewer comes into the room, they're your biggest cheerleader. They're like this, yay, until they can't root no more. And it's like, okay, I can't root no more. But they come into the room, come into the Zoom call as your biggest cheerleaders, because you didn't know that interviewing for an interviewer is tough. It's like almost our second job working as a software engineer is interviewing, right? And in general, we want to have successful conversations and successful candidates come through. So just keep that in mind. And it's okay if you don't know the answer off the top of your head. Let that rambling flow. Use the commenting in your code to let it, hey, I'm thinking about writing a function that does this and it takes this amount of arguments. Just let it flow, because that's what we're listening for. Because you might say something that you didn't know that's what we were looking for. I know it's tough. Just put it in practice. And I really want you just to talk out loud and let those thoughts flow. We want you to hit the wall and not fall down, but hit the wall and climb over and keep going. So just remember, that's what we're rooting for. So definitely feel comfortable enough to let that flow.
Yeah, and I just put an article in the chat where I talked about interviewing from the interviewer's perspective. There's a lot of things that y'all don't get right about your interviewer that if you knew this, you would do better as a candidate. So go check that out, because I don't want y'all to be silly thinking that, Bobby's trying to take your life. Like he's trying to snatch your wig in the interview. Like, no, he's trying to help you, and you need to help him by talking out. That's the whole point of talking out loud. Not so I can be like, I got you, you suck. But to be like, oh, okay, well, you need help with this. I got the information you need. Why don't you go ahead and, at least for me, I'm out here trying to help you, even in the interview, because I want you to do well.
For sure, for sure.
Sure. Okay, Sylvia has, sometimes when I practice questions, I take about 3 hours to find a brute force solution. What's the appropriate amount of time to take when doing self-study of LeetCode code questions before seeing the solution or moving on to the next one?
Ooh, so I love this one. I have thoughts. Here's the deal. When you start doing this, you're going to be horrible at it and it's going to take you a long time, and that is okay. What you want to do is continue. You want to, for each problem, think through, okay, why did it take me this long? What piece of information did I miss that would have helped me to solve this problem faster? And then you're going to take that feedback, you're going to develop, and then you're going to tackle the next question. Sometimes some of y'all go through practice problems too fast, like you're doing the LeetCode grind and just like, oh, let me just do a bunch of questions, and that doesn't really help you rushing through a bunch of problems. What's important is really pay attention to what am I doing for each problem? What's the information I need to learn to be successful? And then how do I turn that into a study strategy to help me with the next one? And so I would rather have you be focused on like 3 questions a week than having you breeze through 3 questions a day and feeling like you're floundering, because you can go too fast. Another thing that I would say is, ultimately, most of your interviews like this are going to be like 45 minutes to an hour tops. So you want to practice to the point where you can get a problem done. My goal was to get something close to an optimal solution within 30 minutes, because in a real interview, you're going to be nervous and you're going to be slower. And so that will get you right up to 45 minutes. If you're doing that, you might solve a lot of them early. That was my goal, because I really wanted to knock it out of the park and get the job at Google. Your goal might just be, let me get to an optimal solution by 45 minutes. And by optimal solution, I mean, you've already written out the code and you know what the performance is. I think that's what's good to aim for, but you're not going to start out with that. That's where you're going to end up. You might start at 3 hours, then get down to an hour and a half, then get to 45 minutes. But that's a thing that's progressive. Okay, so don't worry if it takes you 3 hours now. What's important is that you learn from, okay, what did I do wrong that it made me, or what is it that I didn't know that made me take 3 hours to get a solution? Okay, now let me go study that. And also, one more thing, I love the sports analogies that Bobby brought up, because I like to use the gym as an analog for interview preparation. When you go to the gym, you're not just doing arm curls. You're not just doing leg presses. Oftentimes, you're going to start off by stretching, then you're going to go do those exercises, and you're going to work out different parts of your body. And in the same way, you're not just going to do LeetCode problems. Okay, that's a mistake. So you might do some problems from LeetCode, but you also might pick some from HackerRank. You might go pick up Cracking the Coding interview, do some problems there. Then there's another time where maybe you're not doing any practice problems. You're just reading a chapter from Programming Interviews Exposed, or looking at geeksforgeeks.org and reading about something there, or going to look at GitHub code. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that you should be doing to build a well-rounded regimen. And this is the hard part of preparation, is that it's not about how fast you breeze through a bunch of problems. It's about how critically you think about each step of your development and being holistic. Give yourself time, right? You probably don't need to rush to get a job at a big tech company in the next year, if I can just be honest about that. Some of you might be in a position to do that, but don't rush. Think long-term if you're trying to do the big tech companies. You don't even have to think as long if you're thinking about the smaller companies. There are a lot of companies for which you qualify with the skills that you have that will probably pay you good, or at least good enough to get you to think. So, I know that there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, if you take our program, you can go get a 6-figure job at, Google in 6 months. You probably can't do that, right? If I'm just being 100% honest, you might be able to, but you probably can't. But you can probably get a 6-figure job at a company that's not Google or one of those places and be perfectly fine and not even need to worry about algorithms and data structure. So I just want to impress upon y'all that, like, knowing algorithms and data structure is big O is fine. I love it. I'm a big fan, this and that and the other, but there are other options for you as well. And I want you to be comfortable with, like, growing little by little over time, as opposed to trying to rush and master something without giving yourself enough roadway. So, and I would love Bobby's thoughts on that, by the way, because
I'm very much aligned. One thing that a nugget that Anthony mentioned, I just want to make sure you reiterate it is when you first write your code, like the very first time you wrote it, try to save that, like save whatever it was. And then after 3 hours, you go on your journey and then you come back to how the solution was, right? And then you're like, all right, this is what I started off with. This is the end solution. How do I make sure my code starts off from the way that my perspective of the end solution? So I know LeetCode may not have a way to record this or snapshot this or whatever, but just take a picture of it so you can see what it looks like. So you can see your thought process of why you went down this rabbit hole to get all the way here so that you can understand rather than constantly changing the code. This is what GitHub really helps us with in terms of just source control, rather, not GitHub, is that you're saving your code, iterating, save it, and then you can go back and see the changes. So keep that in mind. The other thing that I want to mention is Anthony and I have been running a race for almost 20 years. We're running a marathon, and we want y'all to catch up. If it takes you 20 years to do that, then in my professional opinion, him and I didn't do our jobs right. It's going to take you at least 3 to 5 years, but I need you to catch up. Not run too fast like in a marathon, you're going to get all burnt out. I want you to keep pace, right? And once you get to this pace, I guarantee you these opportunities are going to not be what company, it's going to be which company I want to work on or work for, right? So just understand this is a marathon. I know y'all want it right now. Y'all want that bag right now. But remember, you got to put in the work. That means this is how you get into the hustle. This is how you get in the game. This is how you level up. And another thing I want to mention is if a door's open, you better walk through it. Like, don't let an opportunity pass you by because, hey, I want to wait to go to a FANG company, because that startup may give you more experience that you get when you go to those other companies. So if a door is open, make sure you walk through it and definitely level up in the process, because we have to iterate. This is a marathon. I know y'all want to be already at the finish line, but I'm still running, so catch up. All right, Josie, we probably have time for maybe 2 more questions.
All right, I'm just going down the list. So I found sometimes I have difficulties transferring data structures and algo concepts into code. How can I deal with this problem?
So what? I'm sorry, one more time. I was typing out a.
No worries. I found sometimes I have difficulties transferring data structures and algo concepts into code. How can I deal with this problem?
So a couple of things. Number one, part of my practice regimen was just copying the code for algorithms and data structures from memory. So I would do something like merge sort or quick sort, memorize it, and then I would just write out that code every single day. And what that does is it really helped me to understand the internals of how those algorithms and data structures worked and just get used to writing code of that style, because it's not always intuitive. The second thing is many times use Big O as a guide. So, you know, I don't have to know everything about how a hammer works. I just have to know that when I bang it against a nail with a flat head, it's going to drive it into the wall, right? So I don't need to know what kind of wood it is and what kind of iron and how they fabricated all that stuff. I just need to know that this is a thing for banging nails into the wall. And so you can simplify your understanding of things by, one of my favorite resources is bigocheatsheet.com. Bigocheatsheet.com is excellent because all it does is it has a list of different algorithms and data structures in their Big O time complexities. And so if I know that I want to sort something in like in log n time, I can go look at that chart and say, oh, merge sort is useful for that. Okay, cool. So if I ever need to do that, I just need to use merge sort. I don't necessarily have to know all the details of how it works. I just know that that's a tool. Many of you don't have a problem understanding the tools in the Big O, like that part isn't hard. A lot of you have a problem understanding the problem that you need to solve because you didn't ask enough questions. Like you would know to use binary search if you asked the right questions, but because you didn't ask the right questions, then you're not able to see that this tool is useful. It's like using a screwdriver. It's like using a screwdriver handle to bang in a nail in the wall because you didn't know that it was a nail, right? If you knew that it was a nail, you'd know the hammer. And so your problem solving process matters so much. And if you don't do a good job of understanding your problem solving process, it doesn't matter how well you know the tools, you're not going to be able to identify the right tool for the job because you didn't think through what you needed to do.
Process is always more important than product. Always. All right, final question. And for anybody whose question didn't get answered, I bet there's a way to get to Bobby and Anthony after this. Okay, as a computer science student, what should you focus on to get an offer or application accepted? Certificates, volunteer work, side projects, ...
Yeah, so one thing that I would definitely say is CodePath is a great resource to get you connected with right companies or companies that are looking for specific students with entry-level positions and things like that. I'm more or less just mentioning, you know, organizations have a path for you to be able to get these type of internships you're looking for. Now, one thing you mentioned there is certifications, and I just want to just briefly just throw that out there is that my way of leveling up was certifications. It wasn't getting a 4-year degree. It was a 2-year technical school and certifications that just allowed me to level up. But what that did is give me credibility. It gave me kind of like, hey, boom, I know this skill set, and here goes a certification that, you know, everybody in the industry recognizes as, hey, this is the level to show your proficiency. So certification is a mechanism and way to do that. The other thing that I want to mention to you about side projects, and I really enjoy as a technologist, when I go to someone's resume or LinkedIn post and they have a GitHub page, and I click on their GitHub page and I find out a project that they're working on, not a personal project, but a project externally, right? As a technologist, I'm looking for you to make contributions just like you were sitting in the office and playing like an engineer. So I really do enjoy seeing students, cohorts participating in those type of projects, typos, updating documentation, maybe trying to do a bug fix, but ultimately just showcasing those skills are what I do as a technologist, just to see, all right, yeah, they're definitely playing like an engineer. We can have a real solid conversation. So those would be my feedback in terms of ways, you know, new computer science students are looking for opportunities and also showcasing your work.
There's one more thing I'll add to this. Some of you may have gone to a boot camp where they told you, hey, just go copy these sample projects and put these on your GitHub, and then you'll be more attractive. I can always tell when you're doing that, and it always sucks because it does not actually help you. Okay. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at what did you actually contribute? What were the notes that you left when you added this code? Did you add the test yourself? Or did you just take a blob of stuff and then post it on your GitHub and try to take credit for it? That's really plagiarism, right? Especially if you're not talking about where you got that stuff from. That's not going to help you. Okay, don't plagiarize and just take projects from other people and then add it to your GitHub and think that's going to actually help. No, actually add features, add something that's distinctive that you built, that you ideated on. You know, try to add flair, try to really customize, add flair. This isn't Office, you know, add something that's distinctive and make sure that you write good like code comments and good commit messages and do the whole pull request process, because that gives me great insight into how you actually work as a professional. So yeah, go fix your portfolios.
From the one and only Anthony Demys, I appreciate you. Well, Josie, thank you so much for providing support. We are coming to the tail end of our conversation, and we don't have that many slides left, but I did want to bring up the deck again. If I can share it fast enough. All right, there we go. I just wanted to give Anthony Demys an opportunity to close out for Brilliant Black Minds, and then we will close it out on CodePath side. Anthony?
Oh, this is real easy. Just sign up. just do it. Like, what are you waiting for? Why'd you even wait this long?
For sure. And from CodePath, I want to say thank you so much, Anthony, for pulling up, giving us some great insights. I know the audience is mixed with Brilliant Black Minds cohorts and also CodePath, and very much appreciate your support. And let me tell you, that knowledge, man, is solid. Keep bringing it. Appreciate you. And the last thing I want to say is thank you from CodePath. We really appreciate you all spending some time with us. It's a great organization to get you really connected. And remember, we're all focusing on supporting students, supporting your efforts, providing the tools you need, either from courses to mock interviewing and partnerships with companies like Carrot and Brilliant Black Minds. So definitely feel free to reach out. And a big shout outs to our Career Path or Career Center. Josie, I don't see your picture up here, so I need to update this slide.
Dude. And not only that, I'm the longest CodePath Career Center member on the team.
Big shout outs to Josie. Give him a good wave, Josie. Let him know you're here. So
I'm
definitely,
here.
we do appreciate you all for pulling up. The Career Center as a resource is here to support you in your career search, from updating your resumes to your LinkedIn. And obviously, I'm there to give you that tech hustle. So definitely come and holler at us. We're always here to support you. And again, thank you all so much for tuning in. This is where we end our conversation. Thank you again, everybody. We'll be hanging out with a little music in the background. If you have any questions, we'll send out an email with the slides and the recording. But thank you so much.
Have a great day, everyone. Bobby, you want me to end the meeting?
We'll let it jam a little bit. Try to get the music playing.
Man, we need another hour.
Yeah, we
We
definitely.
were just getting warmed up. I'm about to go to Twitter Spaces right now.
I'm about to pull up, kid.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll DM you.
All right, no doubt. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. This is CodePath, Brilliant Black Minds, Carrot, your boy Bobby D and Anthony D Mays. You'll see us more often. Yeah, Josie, I don't know how to end this thing. I guess I'm not the presenter.
No, I am. I'm the only one that can end it.
All right, Josie. Thank you, everybody. All right,
All
Josie,
right, bye,
have a good
guys.
day.
Have a great day.
You too.